That's a very good question. What I always try to distinguish is that the Bible is revealing who created what and why. The Bible is very silent about how things have been created. The only thing Genesis is saying is God said, and it was there. Science is in principle a discipline telling us how things change according to physical laws. And in that way, the Bible and science are very complementary.
Welcome, Dr. Arie Sonneveld in our midst. Very curious about your story. Can you summarize your career in 1 minute?
Thank you. A pleasure. I studied in the 70s molecular sciences, and then I got my Ph.D. in biophysics. And then I said to myself, science is enough. Let me switch to business. And I had a business career of 35 years in strategy, in marketing and sales, in leading businesses, in sourcing of raw materials, and finally in risk management. And I retired 7 years ago.
7 years ago. You're also a Christian?
Yes.
And you're a scientist?
Yes.
Do these two sometimes are in conflict with one another? How do you look to this?
No, not at all. Although there was a moment, and I still remember exactly when, in 71, more than 50 years ago, that I was attending a lecture of a professor at Wageningen University, and he said, yeah, we all understand that creation is nonsense. Everything has been established via evolution. And then, as being a Christian, I was only 70 years old, I was thinking, oh my dear, that is something which is completely different. But then, in a certain kind of flash, I realized, how are you making structure, order from disorder? That's a very fundamental question. And then I thought myself, the evolution story is not very strong if you are not able to explain that step.
The step from disorder to order.
Yeah, yeah.
So how you create from nothing, something, and something that's very interrelated and complex. And you have studied all of this.
Yeah, as such, I don't have any problem to accept the Big Bang, although it is still a mystery how you make something from nothing. There are even books with that title, Something from Nothing. But let us accept it for a moment, and if you then think a little bit longer that the Big Bang is producing elementary particles of only mass, energy, spin and charge, and you think it over a little bit, that having only three very simple fundamental principles, which are then resulting into molecules and even DNA, including a lot of information, yeah, how do you make information from such kind of very simple principles? If you look to the information theory of Shannon, that is completely impossible.
So there's a mystery. Do you see a sign of intelligence design here?
That could be, although I'm not in favor myself of intelligent design. Scientifically, that is very difficult to prove. I prefer to work with the open question. Where is that information coming from? How do you make structure and order from disorder? How do you make the step from non-living chemicals to a living cell? And how do you make, for example, the step from a living self to you and me with a brain that can think and plan and talk and love and so on.
Well, there are scientists who are stating that a matter of time, and then by coincidence, these steps do occur. Do you agree?
That's a very interesting question. I wrote a book 2 years ago, and if I translate the Dutch title in English, the title is Beyond Time and Chance. And the quintessence of the book is that even deep time is not able to make from the unlikely the possible. Although some scientists think that it is possible. And also the step from simple genetic structures to more complex, I would say it's more a dream than fundamentally based on scientific experiments or findings.
So it's just a theory which is not proven.
It's a paradigm, which
Paradigm.
sounds interesting,
Sounds interesting, yeah.
but if you go to the deeper fundamental scientific principles, I don't not see a good reason to believe the paradigm.
Okay, and how do you read the first book of the scriptures, Genesis? How God created the heavens and the earth. Are you in front of the Creator and how it is written down there? Or how is it, what's the relation with the evolution theory? Is that crap according to you, or how do you look at that?
No, I think Genesis 1 is a by far superior story. If you read Genesis 1 verse 1, that God is creating the heaven in the beginning and the earth, that is more or less exactly what the Big Bang is telling us, that at that moment in time started, material started, and space. But at the same time, I do not consider the Bible or Genesis as a scientific book. But the similarity is miraculous. And if you realize that Genesis has been written 3,000 years ago or even more, then I think people will more and more understand how superior that message is compared to the scientific developments of the last 100 years. And the reason I'm saying this is a very simple reason. Quite a long time people thought there is no beginning and no end. It's a cycle which has no beginning and no end. And the Big Bang in the beginning was more a joke as a term, because nobody was believing that there could be a beginning, because who is then triggering the begin? Until the moment more and more indications came, yes, most likely there is a beginning. Now, the interesting thing is that the better sciences have discovered that 60 years ago, and the Bible is already telling us that 3,000 years ago.
That it started.
Yeah.
So what I also ask you, that how do you read Genesis, the order of the creation?
Now that's another very interesting question. I think roughly 100, 200 years we know from the work of Darwin and the work of geologists and paleontologists what the sequence was from lower complex organisms to plants to animals to man. And also then, if you read Genesis, it is very surprising that the writer of the book Genesis did already know that more than 3,000 years ago, without having any background in chemistry or biology or geology. So if you think that over a little bit more, then you could ask a question, how could he know it without any scientific background?
And what's remarkable in this sense?
Now that the Bible is so unbelievable open and transparent about that sequence.
That it started with the lights, and then later
Yeah.
on the plants, and
Yeah.
then the animals.
Exactly.
First light, and then the waters, and the land, and then the plants, and then the animals, and finally
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that order. And
Yeah.
what's so special about this order?
I don't know whether we should say that that order is special. It's for me a given of the book Genesis. Later it has been confirmed by scientific developments. And that's nice, that science in that sense is confirming what Genesis has already concluded more than 3,000 years ago.
And what did science confirm related to Genesis?
That's a very good question. What I always try to distinguish is that the Bible is revealing who
Oh, yeah.
created what
Mm-hmm.
and why.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is very silent about how things have been created. The only thing Genesis is saying is God said, and it was there.
Mm-hmm.
Science is in principle a discipline telling us how things change according to physical laws.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, the Bible and science are very complementary.
Okay, they complement one another.
Yeah,
So together they give a better understanding
yeah,
of the whole story.
yeah.
Are there things in the science then and in the scriptures that say these things are very precious to me? They are very complementary, and also they confirm each other. Other things than we just mentioned.
I would say many, not only Genesis 1 in terms of time, material and space. If you take Hebrew, that the writer of that Bible book is telling us that God created everything from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that is exactly the Big Bang Theory.
Yes. Yeah.
Also that is a miraculous thing, if you think it over a little bit more. Also that was already written 2,000 years ago, before we did know anything about the Big Bang.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And also that God spoke, and then when you look at DNA, it consists of all kind of letters. Is that related to each other?
That is an interesting thing. Book of John is telling us that everything has been created by Logos, by the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an interesting English professor, John Lennox, that he says, look, Genesis is describing not only one Big Bang, but maybe even several or eight. The Big Bang of the formation of time, material and space, but also the Big Bang of culture, the Big Bang of climate. When the waters have been separated, then you create what we call today climate. It's a function.
Mm-hmm.
It is not material, and a function is much more than the material itself. And when the Genesis is speaking about all kind of fruit we can eat, then you create a function of food and feed. And that are things you could consider as a Big Bang.
Mm. Major changes.
Yeah, as a major creation of a function.
Yes. Yeah. Interesting.
At the same time, the subtitle of my book is Creation and Evolution as an Open Secret. We do not know everything. There are still unbelievable gaps in our knowledge. And yeah, the Bible and science are complementary, but that is not meaning that I can explain behind the comma every detail. God is too high, too superior to be contained in our idea of technology or process or how things occur.
He is beyond that.
He is beyond that.
Yes.
Therefore, the title of my book is Beyond Time and Chance.
Yes.
The subtitle is Evolution and Creation as an Open Secret.
Yeah, an open secret.
That there are still many elements we can observe, not knowing yet a scientific explanation or sequence of events.
Have you always been a Christian? Were you raised in a Christian family?
Yes, I was raised in a Christian family, and I was Christian already when I was very young. Believing that God is our Father and Jesus the one who is saving us.
Where does he have to save us from?
Where does he have to save us from? Now, look around. If you see what human beings are doing in terms of war, of crime, of whatever, and look to vulnerable human life, we can become 70 or 80 and then life is over.
Okay, but you were young.
Yeah.
And you discovered you need a savior.
Yeah.
But you were not yet involved in war and all the other things as a kid. But what made you have the conviction you need to be saved? As a teenager, I suppose. Or
As a teenager, no, simply the fact that we are far from, I'm looking for the English word,
perfect.
Perfect, and the amount of sins we do every day and not obeying God's commandments, that is a very fundamental reason to be saved.
What are the major commandments of God?
The major commandments of God are very simple. Love God and love your neighbor.
And we fail to obey these.
And I think if you look around, we are simply failing to get that done.
So what does Jesus offer in that sense? Forgiveness?
Yeah, his offer is very fundamental because he is not only healing us, he is healing the total universe.
How does he do that?
Yeah, that is still a thing which we will see when he is coming back. That's a very fundamental promise. I come back and then I will heal.
And does he also heal today? Does he also change people inside of the heart?
Yes, I would say the Spirit, with the capital letter S, is the one who is changing people.
In what sense? What happens when he's changing people? Does he make
They
them to obey the law?
move from the dark to the light.
And does he
in one short sentence.
Okay. And does he make you to be able to obey the law? Love God and love
Let me say, directionally, yes. He's bringing you to the right direction, but that is no guarantee that you are executing 100% of the law.
Okay. Depends on the matter you are under submission of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Interesting. People who like to know more about science and faith, do you have any advice to them? People who are watching right now?
Yeah, maybe the most simple advice is look to the universe, look to the people around you, look to the plants, to the animals, and you will see the face of your creator.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Yeah.
for being among us,
It was a pleasure.
Mr. Sonneveld.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested in science and faith, follow the course on science and faith at searchfortruth.learn.com.